Is your lawnmower going through belts more often than you think it should? Well, people, I have had this issue directly, and I'm here to tell you there is a fix. This fix will work on any mower with a belt, that is. And I'm going to do a quick, super short diagnosis and then get to the actual fix. We're going to get right to it. Let's get along. So basically, it's your belt is being pulled around by these pulleys. The pulleys are not aligned. They're not straight. You have to be having your pulleys straight, not wobbly, wonky, whatever you want to call it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'm working on an X Marks commercial mower. It's an older mower, maybe a 97, something like that. I honestly have never looked at the year. 52-inch deck. I'm going to pull off the deck cover right here and expose the inside pulleys and such, which one of these wheels you saw earlier in the video was shaky as ever. So essentially, get down to your mower, start looking at all of your pulleys. Sometimes you're going to have to release the tension of the belt or the spring in order to get this effect. But if you see this effect happening right here, more than likely that is the cause of your belts getting ruptured. Why they're breaking all the time is because of that off-balanceness right there. And if you don't correct that, you're just going to continue replacing belts over and over and over again. So remove the belt, take the belt off of here. Obviously, you can see this one is extremely worn, and it will eventually break if I leave it on here. So that's the case. Make sure everything is lined up, ready to go. That's the self-diagnosis, okay? It was really quick on this one. Go and look at all your pulleys. Check out what you got going on. If they're not seating properly like this, inside of the frame, all aligned properly, when you get everything tightened back down, then it's not right. And more than likely, you're just going to break another belt. Of course, having the right size belt is always important, but the spring tension, pulling this thing off of here will make it a lot easier for you to even tell the small details of each of the pulleys, because when the tension is on there, it just makes it more difficult for you to be able to tell if the pulleys are actually loose or not. So let's remove the spring. There are definitely specialty tools for removing springs, but most of the time I just pick up what I have laying around, and this one happens to be a screwdriver. I go in and just apply a screwdriver right here. Pop this thing off. It takes a little bit more force, so I'm going to put the camera down real quick. Right, and pop it off. There it goes. Simple as that. Remove. Look at all that wiggle. See that wiggle? That is what we're talking about. That's the reason. And the person that actually owned this mower before me put a plate down below that you can see right there to basically try to counteract this effect. So they band-aided it, but didn't fix it. I'm sure a lot of people have tried doing something like that. So what I'm going to do is one thing that doesn't work out, and then ultimately I'm going to do the right thing. But you're going to see both situations, and maybe one will work for you or not. But the tilt of each of those pulleys and those wheels will scrape on the belts and cause them to wear out prematurely, and you're just going to get them to blow out, especially if you're cutting any sort of long grass or not. So get the belt right out of the way. Let's get some wrenches out. I don't know what bolt size you have, so use the appropriate wrench. Take a socket, put it on here. Take your other wrench and go all the way in here. I have this handy dandy rust hole that I'm going to be able to stick my hand through, and it's going to work out pretty good for me. Might have to jack it up later, I don't know. But that's the little bolt under there that we're looking to remove. A lot of the time these things are seized on here and they're very difficult to get off. But I'm going to reach in here and see if I don't cut my forearm up. Cause a massive hospital situation that we'll have to go to. Looks like it's working out okay for me this far, and we'll just spin this thing right off if I can. The top nut seems to be coming off fairly well at this point. Loosening up. Seems good. And I just want to take a couple seconds during this transition to ask you guys to subscribe. And if you're finding any value in this video, hit the like or notification button. It helps out the channel and helps us know what videos to make next. It's a better service angle over here. Probably be able to see what I'm doing a lot better. Basically, I just took the head of that nut off of that bolt, and we've just loosened it up. And I also wanted to take a second to say that I realize some of this video is kind of dry where you see me doing the actual stuff. I do speed up the camera a little bit so that you don't watch every little thing, but I think it's important for people sometimes to see the little tiny flaws, errors, and things like that that happen along the way. So if you don't mind bearing with me with that, and we'll get right back to it. I'm really not sure why I took the nut off here. I was hoping for an easy extraction, but ultimately I'm going to have to place the nut right back on to give it some hammering, because this just isn't going to work for me. So I did obviously a speed reel here. There's no of everything, but I hammer on this thing a bit. I put the nut back on so that I don't mess up the threads, and I whack on it a little bit. Go over here, grab a little PB blaster, spread it on there, let it sit, give a couple more whacks. Whack, 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 whack. Okay? And just kind of loosen it up, wiggle it up, wiggle it up. I'm trying to gain a good idea of what to do here. So I'm coming up with an idea in my head of using a flat type of washer with a space in the side, kind of like a wedge washer, to create a little bit of space in that gap, kind of like the person before me did with that little plate that they put under it. But I'm going to try to go right underneath the screw here and see if that works. But I do have to lift it up to get better access underneath the underside, because that bolt just doesn't seem to want to come out for me. I wrestle it for a while, realizing ultimately that it is just not what I'm looking to do. It's a lot tougher under there than I thought. So I go back to square one. Look at this thing. It's really loose, but that's what we're working with. You can actually see under there how angled the metal has become from the tension of the pulley pulling on it so long, hard, for so long, for so many years, running so much, cutting so much grass. So all that play right there needs to be fixed. And hey, I love to learn. If you guys have any ideas out there, any things that you know, ways that you could fix this or solve this problem better than I did, please let me know, because I would love some new ideas. I am definitely into learning. I am not a professional by any means. I just go at it as I can with what I have on hand, with the best knowledge that I have. So bring it to me. So the way that I'm planning on fixing it at the very moment is taking a clip that looks like this, and I'm basically going to try to wedge it under. I was going to make one out of a circle washer. That's why I have the circle washer here too, but I ended up finding the flat washer, and or it's actually a piece of chunk of metal. I don't know what it was for originally. I believe that it was a lifting plate or something like that, a spacer kind of deal. So that's essentially what I'm going to use it for. I'm going to stick it right underneath here and see if I can't whack it right underneath there to take up some of that play in the reel, or in the, oh man, I can't remember the name of it, but the thing that's holding the pulley on there, the armature. Okay. As much as it seemed to want to work for me here, I was really just creating another band-aid, is what I kind of noticed, trying to stick this wedge under there. I don't know if it was actually solving the problem that I needed. And what I really realized was, once I stuck that spacer under there, it was a lot harder to turn the armature for the spring to be actually give it a little bit of play on the belt, if you know what I mean, when it's moving back and forth. It was making it stiff. So I didn't want to make it stiff. So ultimately I grabbed the pry bar, put it underneath there, started wedging on it, whacked on it a whole lot. Once I got it loose, I went underneath, sprayed some spray. I'm going to loosen it back up, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to whack it up, and then I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to whack it down. And then I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to whack it back up. And that's just making the bushings inside a little bit looser, kind of knocking out all the corrosion is what I did. Obviously you can see all the corrosion buildup, and that's why we weren't, it wasn't coming out. So I'm going to clean up all this stuff later, but this is the issue. You could see how this is actually deformed and shaping the metal downward, at a downward angle. There's a pit, first of all, in it, from the armature riding on it from so long. And then it did the same thing underneath as well. And I don't know how well of a shot I get of it here, but the hole that I'm working with you can see how deformed that edge is right there. And that's not, it's just not going to seat well. Everything has to be very level when you put it back together. Those pulleys depend on levelness with the rest of the pulleys so that the belt doesn't ride incorrectly. So I used my best leveling eyeball skills, and I'm grinding off a bunch of rusted debris and the where the metal came down from the upside or was pushed down from the weight or the heat or whatever. But there was a big hump there, and I'm kind of grinding it down a little bit on one side because there was an edge, okay? And I'm just making it flat with the rest of the back, okay? Simple as that. It's an over explanation of what's going on here. I'm just grinding that flat and making it level. But you have to pay attention because the underside of the deck is not level. So you have to think about the levelness of the pulleys above you. That's what's really important there. Just grinding it off and making it look clean again, that's not going to work for you because when you put the armature back on and seat that bolt back through it, you're not going to have a level surface and the pulley is just going to be off balance again. I also noticed on the bottom of this, it was angled quite a bit, so I cleaned this all up with the grinders. Obviously the bolts as well, best we can. And then I start to work on the bushing inside of the armature. I want this thing to swing very nicely, move around as much as it could, and right now it was extremely stiff inside of there. And I didn't have a real good way of cleaning it, so I just blasted it with PB Blaster or Blaster multi-purpose there and worked that bolt back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it was loose enough. I got a bunch of debris out of it, and I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. But take your time with this thing. Work it. Make sure it's nice and loose. You want that thing to be very free so it can do its job. Nice and level there. We ground that piece off. This is where I'm noticing that it was angled a bit, so I leveled that piece off. I don't know if it was supposed to be angled from the beginning, but I believe that just from the weight and tension, it wore itself down, rubbing on that spot right there. So I'm also cleaning this spot up here to make it more level with the rest of the deck. I'm going to place a larger washer over top of that so that I can create that level surface there as well with the install. So washer goes over the pit that was put into the deck. That goes on top. Armature's in. And then we throw the washer and the nut on top of that and tighten that right down. And it seems to work out for me. At this point, it seemed to work out a lot better. That flat washer idea, just trying to create a spacer in there, definitely was not the way to go. The fully pulling the whole thing out, grind it down, get another set of washer for it to set on so that it's actually level, and double check your levelness. When you put these things back on and your pulleys are in there, take an old belt, take a new belt, whatever you want, run it through the pulleys and see if it aligns properly. You don't want to have this mistake again after you start this mower up and all you needed to do was go and maybe tighten something up a little bit or adjust one of your pulleys a little bit. Those things can, when you're looking at $50, $60, $80, $120 for some of these belts, it makes sense to take a couple minutes. And look at that, solid. That's what we're looking for. The pulley is supposed to move like that a little bit, but the armature should not move. It should be nice and solid. That plate under there is kind of keeping it too solid for me, but I'm going to leave it alone. Everything seems pretty solid. So I'm going to get a belt back on this, get it back out there cutting grass. And when I say the armature should be solid, I don't mean shouldn't move. It should obviously move because it's the tensioner. When the spring goes on there. Last little tighten up, actually, I noticed. I believe it wasn't tight enough after I moved it off of that other plate that the other person had installed on there. And I wasn't going to grind that plate off. I thought about it, but I decided not to. But once I tightened that bolt up, reinstalled the spring, everything seemed to align rather nicely. And I got it back running, got the belt back installed, and it was cutting grass here within minutes after this video was done. So if you are running through a bunch of belts, make sure you guys go out there, check your pulleys. There are more than likely the cause of your belt drama issue. Perfectly running, nice, good-looking pulleys. Let's go. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.